So, welcome back to Career Candour, the podcast where we dive deep into real career journeys, unpacking the hows and the whys of success with industry leaders who've been there, done that. So, I'm Leigh McKiernon, and today we have a truly inspiring guest, Monika Rudijono. Monika is a powerhouse in business, marketing, and leadership. She has led major brands like Video, Lazada, Uber, Grey Group, and now she's stepping into a new chapter as managing director of Endeavour, Indonesia. Endeavour is an organization that helps high-impact entrepreneurs really scale their businesses. Her track record speaks for itself, whether it's growing video subscriber base from 1.9 million to 4.2 million, spearheading Lazada Indonesia's massive 500% user growth, or turning around agencies into profitable, future-focused businesses. But beyond the numbers, Monika is a leader who builds, mentors, and transforms. And with International Women's Day around the corner, today's conversation is extra special. So we're diving into leadership, entrepreneurship, and what it really takes to thrive as a woman in business. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a professional looking to level up, or just someone who loves hearing real career stories with candor, you're in for a treat. Let's get into it. Welcome, Monika.
Hi, hello. How are you, Leigh?
I'm great. So excited to have you on today. We've known each other for a short while now, and I think your story is something that a lot of people will really enjoy and appreciate, and especially
Well, thanks
young
for having me.
Indonesians. You're welcome. So let's get into it, Monika. What I'd like to start with is, from a career journey and aspirational insights perspective. So my first question for you is, can you walk us through the key moments that really shaped your career from starting in advertising to leading Endeavour as a managing director? How did that happen?
Okay, so I started my career in advertising. And originally, when I went to college, I wanted to be an investment banker because I've always have a passion for numbers. But then in college, I got exposed to marketing, retail, and all of this good stuff. And I love advertising. So find a job with advertising. Spent about 20 years in advertising, and half of which are management role, and half of which is just like building through my career. I think one of the key moments when I was in advertising is actually when I was spearheading business development for Leo Burnett. And at the time, because I was the business development head, I learned, how to approach client, cultivate new business, win pitches, and also learn about agency finances, about pricing, about how to manage a particular project so that it's like really really profitable, and so on and so forth, and ultimately win business. So that was a very valuable experience and key moments, because I think it transformed me from just being an account service person in agency, but more of like someone who can help build business and develop business for the agency. And then from there, I think the next one would be building Isobar in Indonesia. I, together with, another partner, we started the Isobar brand in Indonesia. It's like actually two brands, Isobar and Poster Scope. Both were Aegis agency that was looking to start in Indonesia. So I remember this was like, 2010, 2011, it's where the idea of digital agency is still very, very new. So that was also a very challenging experience, of how to build something from the ground up in an industry that is, not, I cannot even say mature. It was like still like, a baby, right? How to find, how to spot, good talents. And at the time, there's no digital talent in Indonesia. So we have to hire based on, the promise that someone would be good, and then learn together. And ultimately, after 2 years, we managed to get a lot of blue chip client, and the agency was profitable. The next key moment, I would say, Grey Indonesia. At that time, I was just turning around a business that was, in the red, and having to build a team again, rebuild a team, build a team, and hire the right people, transform Gray from a more traditional agency to a more digitally, what you call it, digitally savvy and with more digital thinking in its DNA, and transform that. And I think the next one would be when I moved from agency to the tech startup, and at that time it was Uber, so that was like key moments. And then from tech, now I'm still, I think, in that area, working together with a lot of tech founders, but I'm now in Endeavour, trying to help them build their business, and hopefully will create impact.
Absolutely. It's funny because you mentioned about Uber, and I recall around 2017. I was in Malaysia at the time, but I was following tech in Asia, and I knew about the search. It had been going on for a while, and then I saw the press release, and I was like, "Oh, they've hired someone from Grey Group. How cool!" I've just realised that things have come full circle now, and I've got to know you and that person that was in the press release. I'm thinking about some of the pivotal decisions that you've made in your career. I mean, what have been some of the big choices, perhaps, or the big decisions that have really accelerated your growth from being just part of a team to real leadership roles and influence?
I think it started when I was in agency. I started from just being an account executive, right? Like making sure, the clients are happy and all that. But I know if I want to move forward in my career, I need to understand the business side of it. I need to understand the finance side of the business. And I think that's also why I really enjoyed the business development role when I was in Leo Burnett. In business development, that's where you can really see how the finances work, when you're pricing for a new client and so on and so forth. And ultimately being able to see how does that, in fact, influence the P&L of the agency overall, right? So that's, I think, was my real first taste of a glimpse, I suppose, to like agency P&L, agency finance management. And then from there, it becomes real when I had to manage Isobar, Isobar from scratch. And that's where, financial management, growing business. So that's where I learned, a lot of it. And moving to Isobar, actually not moving to Isobar. I actually moved to MediaTrack at the time, and we together built Isobar, right? That was a conscious choice because I know that digital is the future, right? So that's why I was very, very gung-ho back then. And actually it was quite crazy if I think about it. It's just like, because I've never ever led any agency. I don't know anything about digital. I have just very minimum knowledge of like agency finances. But then I think I jumped right into the opportunity, started Isobar, and then being able to build the agency, I think in just 2 years, where it's like already like profitable, and ultimately it then sell it to, which is now to Dentsu. So the next thing for me was that, okay, now that I know how to build a business, now that I understand agency financials, I want to move to a more bigger leadership role, and that's, I think, I found that in Gray. But by that time, I think I was already like close to 20 years in agency, so I know that I have to move out of the industry, if I want to progress further. And this is back in 2017, where the digital transformation, a lot of startups is just starting out. This is when, Gojek, Uber, Grab, Traveloka, everyone was just like, starting. So I know that I want to move. So when the Uber opportunity was there, I grab it, because I know that it's going to be a very, very different experience, and, take me to a different industry, different mindset, a whole lot of different experience, I suppose.
Yeah. Looking back, it's always easy to talk in retrospect, but is there anything that you would have done differently in your career journey?
I think To be honest, I would probably think more analytically, more like just force myself to like really think more analytically, learn more about that. Another thing, probably get out of advertising earlier. Move to different areas, because I believe, even though advertising is great, because I think it's a great learning place, because where else can you work with different types of clients, help them build their strategy, but not only help them build their strategy, but execute them and then see the result, and the process, start again with different clients. So that was fantastic. But I would wish that I would be more data driven, even back then, and really understand much better how to use data, how to drive founder strategy from data, even earlier on. Yeah.
So do you have any advice on that point for someone who is aspiring to transition from a more functional role into a leadership role?
I think ultimately, when you are going to be a leader of any organization, right, definitely you'll be dealing a lot with building teams, with people. So you need to have good managerial as well as, leadership skill. You need to be able to run a team, manage a team, make sure the team performs well. But then at the same time, how do you inspire them? How do you be able to set clear directions, so that everyone under your command is clear. So you start with leading a small team, and then lead a bigger and bigger team, right? So I think one is like team building. Second is really understand about the finances, because at the end of the day, when you're already a leader in an organization, your mandate is to make sure that business grow, and ultimately the business should be profitable. That should be your mandate to the shareholders, and even for the longevity of the company, right? So understanding finances, understanding the levers of the business, and what are the type of things that make the business grow. Another thing is be good at strategy. What I mean is be good at understanding root causes. Even if you're working in a small unit, anywhere you work, there will be challenges, there will be opportunities. So make sure that you train yourself to be able to think how to identify these challenges, how to see these opportunities, and from there you can think about, oh, then these are the jobs to be done, and this would be the strategic direction, and being able to break it down to strategic initiatives, to projects, and ultimately how is success going to be measured and monitored, because this will be a very, very good building block and good practice as you move up in your career, having to handle bigger and bigger and bigger
Yeah, and this seems to lead really well then onto your new role. So your role at Endeavour, and from what I understand, Endeavour is really focused on supporting high-impact entrepreneurs. What unique challenges do Indonesian entrepreneurs face today? And how is Endeavour, how are you helping them to address those?
So I've only been in Endeavour now like almost 3 months, where I've spoken to some of our Endeavour entrepreneur. From some of these entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, I see some similarities. Number one is because they are all at a growth stage, right? So there is this idea of, like growing pains, when you have to scale from, a small operation to bigger operations. So one of the key challenges is about people, how to make sure your teams and your people are able to help you deliver the vision of the growing business. That's one. Another thing is, I also see that now some of the businesses are thinking about going global, right? Not just the Indonesia market, so going regional. And of course, there's always access to capital. It's always something that is needed in a startup environment. So the way Endeavour help with these different things is that we give entrepreneur access to mentors, right? And our mentors is not just limited to those who are in Indonesia, but our entrepreneurs is open to seek mentorship with the global mentor pool that is a part of Endeavour. Second thing is the peer network. So a lot of like peer-to-peer conversations where they can speak to similar businesses in other countries or even create partnerships with um, other entrepreneurs, be it in Indonesia or in other countries. Another thing is we help them also and their team with executive education. So Endeavour has a partnership with Harvard, Stanford, as well as MIT, where founders and also their C-level can participate to make sure they themselves, keep on growing, keep on learning. Other than that, Endeavour has great relationships with a lot of like VC, PEs, and Endeavour itself has what we call Endeavour Catalysts, which is our own fund. So when entrepreneurs are looking for funding, we help them to get access to capital either through match cap or arranging like separate meetings and also through Endeavour Catalyst.
So Endeavour's a blend of mentorship as well as investment from what you're sharing.
And also, I think your network, because that's actually a big thing for entrepreneurs to be able to speak with like-minded individuals who have the same challenges, right?
Yeah, makes sense. So there's supposed to be a pay it forward mentality, a lot of personal contributions, in investment of time and knowledge in really supporting the ecosystem here would be the right way to say it. Back to leadership now, strategy, business growth. You have a track record of turning around businesses. We got a few top line numbers earlier, but everything from Grey Indonesia to video. What's your approach to business transformation?
Actually, I think when I have, I think this goes with just like any challenges. I like to really, really understand what really is the root cause, what's causing something. And then just like, I always think of strategy as just like answering a question, right? So I don't, because sometimes people can get really bogged down by the word strategy and they get really intimidated by it. For me to simplify it in my head, I always see what's the problem and what's the answer to the problem. It's just that. And then making sure like there is a very systematic way of breaking down the solution, the answer, and with clear projects, with clear outcome and timeline. But at the same time, I think having the right people is definitely the key. I mean, you can have the best strategy, the best plan, but when you don't have a good team to be able to execute that, then it's just nothing, right? It means nothing. So I have been very, very fortunate throughout my career that I was given the opportunity to work with a team that's like passionate, that buys into the vision, that together want to make a difference and to work hard, basically. I had such team in Isobar and Gray and Lazada. So this is definitely what makes a difference, right? It's to have that great team that is able to help you to make things into a reality.
Yeah, look, everyone knows what I do as a day job. So you're talking my language there when it comes to talent. What I'd love your perspective on is you've built and you've scaled teams multiple times over. Talent, the right people, human capital is so high on everyone's agenda here, and it's such a bugbear for so many people. What do you look for when hiring top talent?
I always like to look for more of the character of the person, more so than the technical capabilities. I mean, not saying that technical capabilities should not be there. I mean, I believe that, technical capabilities should be there. But I really want to understand where this person is coming from, where this person is going, and whether or not they have the right mindset. Because I think mindset is very important, and mindset is everything, right? Then, if I find someone, I think he has the right mindset or she has the right mindset, maybe technical, yeah, not so great, but you can learn, and you have this willingness to learn and all that, then I tend to hire those kind of people, right? Because what I find is when they have the right mindset, when they have the drive and they're always hungry for learning, things would happen. And, at the end of the day, when I was in agency and then e-commerce, even I don't know anything about e-commerce, when I joined e-commerce. I know nothing, zero, zilch, nada about sharing, So obviously they definitely did not hire me because, I'm an expert in ride sharing. I mean, who was? I mean, this was 2017. Nobody knows anything about ride sharing or e-commerce, or even, when I was hired to do OTT. I mean, I know nothing about OTT, right? So I believe that, more in the person than in their knowledge, but at least the person has to show at least track record that, they have able to scale team, they have able to solve, business challenges and, things like that. And they themselves as a person have the, right mindset and drive.
Yeah, one of the key skills, and this goes back to my time at Corn Ferry, it's so intangible but so important, is curiosity. A curious mind addresses so many of those areas that you said,
Definitely.
and I think then it's the job of a company, of leadership in the company, to put a structure around that. Because a curious mind, it can also lead to some negatives. It can lead to the job hopping. Is the grass greener? It can lead to a current trend like kabar aja dulu, where Indonesians are a bit too curious. Like, okay, is the grass greener overseas than here? So curiosity, I think, when managed right with the right leadership team and people behind it, is a really, really powerful tool that companies should hire and should really invest in as well. I think one of the challenges there, Monika, that comes with hiring curious people as well is motivations. We see so much movement in the startup world here. So my question based on that is, how do you keep your team or teams motivated and aligned with that company vision, especially in these younger, fast-paced industries?
I think at the end of the day, what I find is that people do what they do because they want to make a difference, right? There's just, even in the younger generation, I find that even truer, that they want to make sure that what they do matters. So even if they're doing like this, like maybe mundane task of like data entry or whatever that is that they do, they want to understand, how is it what I do actually translates to the bigger company goals or result, and such thing. So I find that when I was in Lazada video, it's very important to have constant dialogue with your team for them to really understand, number one, where's the direction of the company, where the company is going in terms of strategy, what are the key strategy, and how does this key strategy translates to, when I was in Lazada, of course, marketing, right? So then they understand, okay, so when we make that project contributes to this, and that means that for that entire strategy of the company. So having this constant dialogue of translating the company goals, business goal, challenges, and strategy into what we do on our daily task is very, very important. And then another thing is also, I like having one-on-ones. I like having one-on-ones with my team, not just my N-1, but N-2, N-3, because I want to understand also their own personal motivation, and what drives them, and make sure that we put them in the right projects, in the right sort of job that continues to be fulfilling for them, right? Because it's very important, because I think once anything stop being fulfilling, that's when boredom creeps in, and then that's when you start asking yourself, what am I doing here? Wait a minute. I mean, I find that true for myself, right? If something, excites me, keeps me going, makes me feel very fulfilled, then I just, love what I do. So I think that's what I do. And then at the same time, build an environment whereby we feel that, we have each other's back, a very, very positive team environment where everybody wants to excel, but not at the cost of your teammate or anything like that. It's more like a very collaborative environment.
Yeah, this speaks a lot towards some of the work you do in mentorship as well. And I know one of the topics that you're very passionate about is women in leadership and diversity. I'm really bad with dates. I forget birthdays, but you brought to my attention that it's International Women's Day on March 8th. So what I'd love to do is explore that in more depth with you, Monika, and really kick that off with something I know you were a big part of, which was the Lazada Women's Club. So you were mentoring young professional women at Lazada. What unique challenges do you feel that women face in leadership, and how can they overcome those?
Yeah, so I actually experienced that myself, right? I was like so gung ho, about my career in advertising. This is way back when, right? And then, got married, have one child, still very manageable, one child, not an issue, continue with my career. But things changed for me when I had daughter number 2 and daughter number 3, right? So that's when I'm like, whoa, 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 started to question myself, am I being a good mother? Am I giving my children justice? And it's all very natural to feel that way. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to take a break from my career. I'm just going to focus on my children. I was very, very fortunate back then because my boss at the time offered me a part-time position, right? So that allows me to be able to manage my children and at the same time still continue, with my career. And then again, when the opportunity came to lead Isobar, right? I was already very comfortable with the idea of, working part-time and just taking care of my kids and going to work for maybe only like 4 hours a day. But it was, again, my husband who, at the time saying, look, the kids are okay. You need to take this opportunity, right? I'm going to support you. Having experienced that myself, I really understand the pressure that is being faced by working women today, especially working mothers, right? And I see that also in the organization. I think when you're still single, when you're only just married, it doesn't change very much for you as a woman, in terms of, pursuing your career. But things starts to change when children, is in the picture. Because at the end of the day, the society in Indonesia still expects the mother to be the one, raising children and stuff like that. Even though now couples are more modern than that, the society still has certain level of expectations. Even I faced that from my own mother, from my mother-in-law, who's like kept on telling me, hey, why do you work so hard? Why do you, why don't you just stay home, take care of the kids? You don't need to work so hard. But for me, it is actually very like necessary because I have 4 daughters, right? So for me, it is very important that I become positive role model for them and to show them what's possible, right? So yeah, so I realized that it's not easy. So what I want to do when I was in Lazada, so it was myself and 2 others, a senior leader in Lazada, and we said, hey, let's just start this, women interest group in Lazada, whereby we have, conversations about challenges, and let's just share our own challenges, our own journey. That for us, it's not always very, very easy, because what I don't want them to think is that, oh my God, Monika is now like CMO, she must have like a very smooth sailing career and so on and so forth. But that's not true. I also have my own set of challenges, having to deal with, motherhood, and then, following a career and so on and so forth. So I just want to make it real for them. And I just want to make sure that there is like a place where we can just talk about things openly. I think that was just the initial idea of that, more than anything else.
And what advice do you have then for women who want to step into executive roles in tech, in media or marketing?
I think it's the same as I would men, to be honest, which is like, really like you want to step up to leadership role. Like what I said, beginning, you really need to understand your business. You need to be good at, being able to build team, leading team, and ultimately understanding business so that you can then also grow the business. But I do understand where you're coming from, because for women, there's also another sort of like expectations, right? Not to just do well in company, but also, do well, in the home front. I think my my advice would be, have like a trusted network that can support you. Like for me, it was my mother who will then, take my kids and look after them when they're not in school, when I'm working. I have, and luckily we're in Indonesia, so I have mates. Without them, I would not be able to have a career. I have a nanny that can take care of my kids. I also have drivers. So I think, but I translate that to just, support system, right? People that have your back. And I am very fortunate, because I always say this to other women too, because I think the two most influential men in my life, that being my father and my husband, both are a big believer of, women can conquer the world, so to speak. So I'm very fortunate, because in my time of doubt, it is my husband who actually say, "Hey, no, 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 you go ahead, you move forward," instead of saying, "Yeah, just stay home, take care of the kids." So it also helps to have the right support at home, the right partner, having conversation with your partner to make sure that you do have an understanding, right? I want to go far, are you okay if I want to go far?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And we're seeing more and more women try and balance this. And there's an area that there's a data point that really stands out to me, and that's about women's startups or women-led startups. So we're talking about relative equality these days in some people's eyes, and we're talking about a level playing field. And maybe this is cultural, maybe there's some characteristic or trait-based element to it, but fundamentally we can't get around the fact that women-led startups often receive less funding globally. If you could give a bit of career advice to aspiring female leaders or entrepreneurs, what would it be? What can women startup founders, leaders, what could they do?
Well, number one is that at the end of the day, people invest because they want to see the promise that the business is going to do well, right? So, and I think sometimes with women, myself included, when we're setting goals or projection, we tend to be more conservative, I think, right? Because for us, it's like, yeah, I think this looks realistic, right? Whereas I think maybe men are more daring in being able to say, "Nah, we can do more, we can." So I think already in the way you do your proposal or your term sheet paper and all that, is that the business may not look as rosy as maybe if, um a male counterpart, male founder would pitch it, right? And I think also because, and actually this one is not my own experience, but this is something that I read, is that when women founders are doing their pitches and they get like, pushback from either investors or anything, they they think that, oh, these are legit feedback, and they tend to take it as feedback because they feel, "Oh, in this moment, I take that on board." Whereas managers tend to argue that, right? Or they say, so because women tend to take it on board, and because they felt that, oh, this is a good point, I'm taking it on board, I'm gonna take it, improve it, and so it makes like some of these would-be investors think that, oh yeah, that's true, like that point is true. Right? I feel that at the end of the day, women founders will still be working within these constraints, right? So I would say just, be braver, be bolder, and, don't be afraid to stand your ground. Because at the same time, even though statistically women founder get lesser funding, there's also data that suggests that, women founders tend to run better businesses. So, so yeah. So I think, yeah.
Yeah. I think you're being too kind there. You chose the word daring, and I was thinking in my own head, reckless.
No, I was like thinking, right? Is like, I feel that, when even for myself, when I would see like, oh, there's a job opportunity, for example, and it has maybe 10 requirements, and let's say I have like 7 of those 10, I would say, well, yeah, I don't have the threes. I don't think I should go for it. But men
Yeah.
would probably think the opposite. Like they'll say, oh, I have 3 requirements out of the 10. I should go for it, right? So in a way, it's also because we are wired differently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. I look at some of the feedback and some historical experience that I'm aware of, and the applications for roles are typically overwhelmingly men, and 90% of those are unmatched to the job that you advertised in the first place.
Mhm.
I do admire the self-belief though. So shout out to my fellow men that think we can we can take over the world, and that 3 out of 10 is good enough for the job.
Yeah. And I think the same goes for women. We just have to have more confidence and just go for it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, I think now we're in a modern culture than 30, 40 years ago, but at the same time, we are in Indonesia, and I think culturally there are still some remnants of the traditional male-female roles, as you mentioned as well. Have you faced any gender-based biases or challenges in your career? And if so, how did you navigate them?
Personally, to be honest, I've been very fortunate that I have not experienced that, right? I've been in advertising an industry where I think gender is like quite balanced. In Uber was the same, I think. Even Lazada, I think I remember the number was a bit it's a bit different. It's like 55% female and then 45% male. I have not faced that. But because I sometimes, attend talks, where I am like a panelist or I'm a speaker, and I deal with, let's say, a lot of women that they have questions and stuff, I know that this issue does exist. Just because I have never experienced that does not mean that it doesn't exist. Right. And I think it exists in various ways. Sometimes it could be because, oh, it's a male dominated industry and then you're a female. Right. Everyone that you lead are male and then you're like a female leader, things like that. It does happen. And sometimes it's not that they're out to get you to see you fail, but the fact that the bro culture could be so strong, that's often enough to intimidate us as women, right? So I feel, again, in that, if you are really facing discrimination, and there's like legit things that your male colleagues or boss or anything do to you, then of course you need to go to HR and have really serious talk and make sure that the organization handle it. But I think sometimes also it's in our head, right? And I think as women, we just have to assert ourselves also, right? What I mean is something, it's like this, right? okay, I'm the boss in the room, right? But sometimes because I am who I am and I'm a caretaker at home, so even as the boss in the room, I would make sure that, hey, does everybody get their coffee? Or do we have enough snacks? And I think to myself, "Jeez, Monica, stop it. Why do you do that? You're the boss. You should just sit down and let other people take care of these things." So then, consciously I need to assert myself that, I'm the most senior person in the room and act like it, and you don't, and it's okay, it's not that we're trying to be rude or anything like that, but being assertive is okay.
Absolutely. We're seeing those shifts now, and people are understanding that, ultimately it's competency based, and competency isn't defined by whether you're male, female.
Definitely.
So with International Women's Day, the theme of it, from what I understand, is about celebrating progress, but it's also pushing for more inclusion, especially in industries or countries where there isn't quite what we're fortunate to experience ourselves. What changes do you hope to see in the next 5 or 10 years for women in business and leadership?
Well, I want to see more women at the top position, right? Because what I see is that at the starting point is usually like 50-50, even at, mid-management, it can still be, like 50-50. But again, as life challenges becomes harder and harder for women, motherhood and all that, and we see that, at the top, there are like fewer and fewer women. And I just hope to see that, that can change. And I think one way how we can change it is if we ourselves, as women, also raise our daughters right. And the way I say this is because I think there is an inherent difference between men and women, because men has always have jobs, right? Like my grandparent, my grandpa, great grandpa, like my dad have always worked, right? But in my family, my mom is probably the first generation of a working woman. I'm second generation. And I think the reason why I am who I am, because I see my mother, right? So if we want to see this change, then we have to start that change and raise, stronger daughters. And even if you're like a dad, think about it. And it's because it's a real challenge. For some of my peers, they are the first generation of working women in the family because their grandmother, their mother has never worked. So they also have this added pressure of like their parents saying, why, I didn't have to do it. Why do you have to, be so driven and all that? I mean, even I get that from my mom, and she was a working woman. Yeah. So, but like, when I had like three daughters, like not even daughter number four, she's like, I think you should just, think about stop working. But she herself was actually a career woman. She built her own business and all that, right? So yeah, I think we have to be more driven. We have to be more confident that, we can make it. And yes, it is tough. We have to juggle a lot of things. But I think the next best thing that we can also do is also raise the next generation, right? So that eventually, we'll get there.
Absolutely. And talking more generally about future outlook, about career advice as well. What's next for you in your career? Any new ambitions or industries that you're excited about?
I think right now I'm really, really enjoying what I do with Endeavour. Prior to joining Endeavour, I actually took quite a long leave, sabbatical. And during the sabbatical, I actually went through transition coaching. And so through the journey of transition coaching and all that, that's where finally I got my aha moment and found what is it that I want to do, the next step of my career. And I think Endeavour is the realization of that aha moment, because what I want to do is I want to continue to mentor. I want to continue to create impact and help people. That was my thing. So I'm still enjoying, and I'm really enjoying my new role in Endeavour. And what's next is I hope that I could help more and more businesses to succeed. Not just that, but continue to being able to mentor and share my experiences, also with other women, other leaders. That's something that I really I'm passionate about.
Absolutely. If you could give one piece of career advice to people starting out, what would it be?
What you mentioned earlier, always be curious, just learn, absorb, work with the best bosses, the toughest bosses, and use the opportunity to just learn and be hungry, ask questions. I think if you ask the right questions, you're already halfway there. Because if you ask the right questions, chances are, you can find out the right answer or even find out the right challenges. But, asking the right questions.
What's one misconception people have about success in business and leadership?
Misconception. Interesting question. Let me think about that.
I'll give you a bit of help. You talked earlier about the assumption that people often think it's a smooth sailing. They think it's a smooth journey
Okay, okay.
to get to the top. And that might not be your answer to this, but that's kind of where I'm going.
I
People
see, I
see
see,
what
I
you
see.
are. They see what you are
Yeah,
now. They
yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah,
see
yeah.
what
I think,
you've been through.
yeah, I think it's like, okay. So yeah, as I said, sometimes when I even when I talk to my team member, some of them are, still very, very young. They would say, um I want to be like you. And then they're like, and I would say, why? What is it about me that you want to be, right? Because I just want to make sure that it's I want to understand, where is it that they're getting at, right? And they'll say, yeah, because you seem like you're very indie, like very successful, very confident, very whatever, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I did not start out this way, right? It's like, um, and I actually have failures, and I actually have time where I didn't do well, and stuff like that. And it's just that you overcome things, right? I think that's something that, and it's definitely not instant. And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm being making a generalization, but there is a tendency of like, because I have done this, I already managed to achieve this KPI in my project, it means that, I am due for a promotion. I've done that, what's next? I'm done. What's next, right? It's not that, because it's not just about you being able to deliver projects. It's the whole complete package, right? How you think, whether you have the maturity to even, like, bring others for success and things like that. So, and it does take time. Becoming more mature in business and being able to reach to a certain point, it does take time. It's not that instant. Granted, some people can reach there faster, some people slower, but still within that whole progression, there are certain milestones that you need to be able to hit. So yeah, so it's not instant, and it's definitely not without failures along the way.
It's a very now culture. People, I think social media contributes to this. People see this idealized image, or they see the end results, and they don't always understand or appreciate what has gone into getting there. The sacrifices that come along with it as well. The days you wake up not feeling great about life. They don't see all those images. They just see, okay, yep, I want that. I've done this project. I want a pay raise. I want an increase in title. And I've had those conversations with people when I've been helping build startups here, when I've been partnering with VCs and looking at younger talent. It's just so, I want more now.
Yeah.
As a final question, Monica, how do you stay adaptable and keep up with industry trends in such a fast moving space?
Well, learning definitely. Just ask a lot of questions. I like to ask the younger member of my team, hey, what's new? What's happening? Because they know everything, right? They know all the latest things. So having that conversation. But I think also for me it's through my network, right? What I mean by network is talk to a lot of people, so that you learn different things, not just about business but about social things, and what's happening in the world. Read a lot, cannot say enough about news, but even every now and then browse your social media pages and reels, and just to see, hey, what's out there, what's trending, what's happening. That was especially true for me when I was in marketing, because sometimes you see something that is, hey, this is happening out there. If this is the like the pop culture, how can I bring this into like what my clients doing, right? Or even what we're doing to be more relevant, and stuff like that. So yeah, I I read, I scroll through social media, I ask my young team members about, hey, what's happening, what's going on, learn their lingo. Oh my God, there's so many new lingos now. It's just amazing. And keep abreast with my network. I talk to my friends who are in consulting, for example, in other businesses, to just learn what's going on, what's happening.
Absolutely. Well, Monika, it's been such an insightful conversation with you. Everything from growing billion-dollar brands to mentoring the next generation of entrepreneurs. Monika is proof that leadership is about both strategy and heart. A few key takeaways from this, I'd say. Success isn't just about scaling fast. It's about building something that lasts. The second thing I'd say is that women in business still face barriers, but leaders like Monika are paving the way for more inclusion, mentorship, and opportunities. And thirdly, whether you're in marketing, tech, or starting your own business, the best investment you can make is in yourself, your network, and your ability to adapt. So if you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear Monika's story. And if you want to keep up with her journey, check out her work at Endeavour Indonesia, where she's now helping high-impact entrepreneurs scale and succeed. That's it for today on Career Candour. Stay curious, stay inspired, and as always, keep chasing those big career dreams. See you in the next episode.